What's going on, everybody? This is an episode from the No Gimmicks Needed Wrestling podcast. Do you like podcasts and you want to see the full podcast? Make sure you check out the No Gimmicks Needed Wrestling podcast on all your podcast platforms, such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, among many others. But you're listening to the episode right here on YouTube, so make sure you hit that like button and below, and make sure you hit the subscribe button to NC Studios and NC Level Up for all your gaming needs. This is the Nerd Coalition. Enjoy the show. Dark Side of the Ring 2 weeks ago was about the Junkyard Dog.
Was it 2 weeks ago? Oh, yeah, it was.
Yeah,
did you talk about the Make Them TA one?
I'm going to talk about it after. Because, I'm more into the Junkyard Dog stuff. So
I got to watch that one because that's my mom's favorite wrestler of all time. Random fact.
Magnum TA or Junkyard Dog?
No, Junkyard Dog.
I was about to be like...
is my mom's favorite of all time.
Oh, I was about to say, she likes the Tom Selleck lookalike.
I'm dead.
No.
He said no.
Go ahead. I'm going to fade out. Go ahead. Do you?
They focus on Sylvester Ritter, who was a Junkyard Dog. So, when it came to the Junkyard Dog, I did not know much about the Junkyard. Obviously, Junkyard Dog was before my time. Mm-hmm. And by the time he got, retired and stuff like that, I was already in the wrestling, but Junkyard wasn't there no more. So I had to go back, and I actually had to was like when it was on the news that former wrestler Junkyard Dog died in this car accident, and I was just like, who?
I know who he was.
I honestly at that time I did not,
because when I saw the picture and I saw the chain, I was like, oh. Yeah. I know who he is.
Yeah.
I can't say I've ever seen a match, but I at least knew who he was.
Uh-huh.
Because whenever, of course, you talk about like pioneers in wrestling that are black, because especially back then there were so few, I heard about Junkyard Dog, Tony Atlas, Rocky Johnson. It really wasn't that many back then. So, I mean, I'm not going to pretend I was like the biggest fan, but I at least knew who he was.
Yeah.
So I was curious about this Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah, so I went back and I remember they had a DVD collection, because back when they used to have good DVD collections, I used to collect them. They had the first one I saw, Quattro, do you remember Ladder Match? Is Quattro still there?
I'm thinking about that.
Oh, okay. They had a DVD set that was like the best ladder matches in WWE history. Anything they own. And that was a damn good DVD. I still have that. But they were talking about the first ever ladder match, which had Junkyard Dog in it. I was just like, I didn't know Mid-South had the first. And this is back when it was literally a ladder that was built to the ring, up to the balcony, and she had to climb up and get the money. So the ladder would just stay in the ring, and he just had to fight and climb the ladder. I was just like, oh, and
that's
then Bret Hart and Shawn
I know
Michaels.
what you're talking about, when the ref had to hold the other side.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, oh, first of all, this guy's a lot smaller than I remember Junkyard Dog being. Mm-hmm. So then I had to go and look at the Mid-South wrestling stuff, where that's where Junkyard Dog was. Junkyard Dog.
He was.
Yeah, it's kind of like Andre the Giant. Where everybody was just like, oh, damn, Andre can't move no more. What the fuck? Everybody, somebody like, go look back at old school Afro Andre the Giant.
Old school.
Yeah, go look at that Andre the Giant. So they did. It had a lot of talking heads in here. Jim Ross is in here. Coco Beware. Tony Atlas, Teddy Long.
Who else?
Tony Atlas was around for so much, yo.
He really was.
I feel like he's in every Dark Side of the Ring.
He been through some shit.
Yeah. So obviously they talk about Junkyard Dog being trailblazers, and especially when it came to black wrestlers, because of how, like Lace had said, few and far it was in between, and he had a look that really got him over, and people don't really realize how over Junkyard Dog was back in the day.
He was huge.
Yeah, back in the day. You can start at the top.
Okay, so I'm gonna try my best to remember this. So they gave like the rundown of how he got into this. He was not a trained wrestler.
No, he was actually a football player.
He was a football player, but I think they thought he could do well.
Yeah.
So he ended up going to, like, when he started getting big, he was in Mid-South Wrestling with Bill Watts. Thought he would be, like, he was like, I could do something with this guy.
Yeah.
So he is.
But how the football player he did go to, because he like the Hearts took a lot of black folks out there with this like Stampede Wrestling.
Yeah.
Take them in there.
He was Big Daddy Ritter apparently in Stampede Wrestling.
Yeah.
They didn't really mention that much in the Dark Side. They really kind of just was like, oh, he wasn't a wrestler, and then he ended up in Mid-South. Like, they brushed over that part.
Yeah.
So then he got to Mid-South, and they started basically building everything around him. He was just that big. Like, he was, like, even in places where you wouldn't expect him to be. Yeah. They loved him. So,
I see what you mean there.
Yeah. So essentially, they just really go through everything that happened when he was in Mid-South Wrestling, and then eventually this was when Vince McMahon was coming in and wiping out all the territories and taking all the wrestlers. So he got to Junkyard Dog and told him he would pay him a gang of money, pretty much. So,
well, before you go on, let me cut you off. I did want to mention, because Jim Ross had a point here where it was talking about that back then they had an unwritten rule that they would have only but like so many black wrestlers, yeah. And you will only push about just one.
Yeah.
So, which caused a lot of people to fight for that, let's say, for that spot. Yeah. That they had, because like I said, when you had Ernie Ladd back then, and when you had Bo Brazil back then, and you had Junkyard Dog, you had all those trying to fight their way for the top.
But Ernie Ladd was like instrumental in him. He was a big Junkyard Dog supporter.
Yes, yeah, as he should. He Coco Beware, and all of them point out that that how at the time wrestling was the white man's sport.
It was.
Yeah, and that Ritter ended up showing how successful black wrestlers could be, which opened the doors for many other wrestlers. And then he had that relationship with Bill Watts, because Bill Watts was the booker for Mid-South back in the 80s. And because I do know about Bill Watts, because especially of the WCW era where Bill Watts was there, and then, the controversy with Bill Watts and all the other stuff like that, and then also because Bill Watts was the one that put the championship belt on Ron Simmons.
I don't know about the controversy.
Yeah.
But before I got to him wiping out the territories, that was the next part.
Yeah. But I'll get you guys. I didn't want to. I don't want to skip over the Mid-South days, because I know. Basically, everybody knows a lot of him from WWE.
Yeah.
And that whole.
I mean, I think that's how he got his notoriety, but it seemed from the way they were telling the story in the Dark Side, he was biggest in Mid-South.
Absolutely.
So, because that's kind of where I was trying to get to. Vince was coming to wipe everybody out.
Yeah.
And then, so he went to Bill Watts and told him he was going to leave, and he was upset. Understandably, he's like his biggest star. He, they built his career. He's huge, and now it's not going to collapse because he left. But anytime a big star leaves, it's going to be like a bit of a dust up, because now you got to replace them. Are people going to start watching wherever they like the thing that they went to instead of watching your stuff? The whole.
Mm-hmm. Because when a big star leaves, it leaves a hole. I get you.
Yeah. There you go. So basically, he laid all that foundation. He did they did address that he opened a lot of doors for black wrestlers that were not there. He created a lot of opportunities. So he goes to WWE, and this is where I saw more of what you were saying about how it could only be one black wrestler. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, you can be, we understand you might have had some buzz from where you came from before, but over here, little fish in a big pond kind of situation. And it's not going to be, we're not going to have more than one big black star, and we can't let you be bigger than our, ticket, our meal ticket kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. Even though, as cringe as this may seem, at that time, there was nobody in the country bigger than Hulk Hogan.
You're correct. But
And unfortunately, it's just like
this was prime Hogan time.
yeah, this is the rockin' wrestling Hogan. Okay, this is the '80s. This is where it's just like, hey, name some things from the '80s. And once you name Ghostbusters, Indiana Jones, and Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, you're going to name Hulk Hogan.
Dolls and Hulk Hogan.
That's how it's going to work.
Not that
Okay,
much.
and he was big, even though how insanely over he was. Cause see, I was wondering if you was going to get into the Freebird story.
Oh, I'm getting around to
Okay.
it. So, because Junkyard Dog was, like we said, was really huge, and there was a storyline happening where the Freebirds blinded him, and somebody was in the audience about to murk the Freebirds. Okay, pulled out a gun,
Bullet right back on his ass.
it was about to shoot him. And they was like, he was torn because this is the kayfabe era.
Yeah.
He was like, do I jump up and like tell him to like get the gun out of his hand?
Yeah.
And they realize I'm not blind?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I just let this all play out? Or like he was torn. So, but what happened was the security.
That
came.
is wow.
Isn't that wild? Like, can you imagine it? I think this is why.
No.
That story right there was one of the reasons why. What made me think like, damn, this is why the old heads be so hard about kayfabe. Because they was like, y'all breaking kayfabe, and it just, you supposed to go with the story at all times. And I'm like, one, at this point, the way life works now, that's not reasonable. However, if this is the length y'all were going to back in the day,
Ew.
I see why you so passionate about it. He was gonna let this man get shot.
And it also, because when they blinded him, he cut the promo, and he was cut a promo saying that his wife gave birth to his daughter, but he'd be able to hold her, but he wouldn't be able to see her.
He can't see her.
Oh God, tore the fans up,
Bruh. They were big mad.
And I want y'all to know, we in the South, Mid South. I understand it, but
South still South.
South still South. Okay, and they was like, we gonna kill for you, Junk. You know what I'm
Absolutely. They was really, my man pulled out the blicky on him. He said the Freebirds will be no more. But the security came and got him, so he didn't have to get up and do anything. But I was like, I can't imagine being that in character to be like, damn, do I let this fan go off? Or do I come back?
Bro, beyond being that in character, I can't imagine being that behind this person that I don't know in real life from a can of paint, that as like, you know what, I believe in you so much that I'm gonna kill this other person I don't know for you.
Also same. That is valid points are being made, because what?
Fandom is very
fanatic. That's fanatic. You can't cut the attic off for that one.
But like you did say,
like after that story, I can never hear nothing about the Beehive again.
That's big fact. Because what?
Are they pulling guns for Beyonce? No.
That's the one. That's the original Swarm right there.
Yeah, go watch that show, by the way, y'all. When he was saying that he left, because he had some dates booked, but then Vince used to do this to a lot of guys around the territory days, that he will pay you extra if you were just to leave, not finish out your bookings, and cause problems like that.
Mm-hmm.
Vince will pick Vince asshole. Vince will pay extra. And then a lot of guys will jump up and pay
just
bounce. And so now Teddy Long tells this story. Okay.
Yeah, Teddy Long told the story that he left.
So he left, and then he says he tells a story about how he heard that Ritter, which is the Junkyard Dog, was in a bathroom stall, and he said overheard Bill Watts and Grizzly Smith talking about how JYD might need a company. Allegedly, Watts used a racial slur, the N-word, obviously.
He said that N-word ain't going nowhere.
And then during the conversation, now they said they tried to contact Bill Watts He said he denies it, but he wasn't on the show.
He wasn't. He didn't want to be on the show, I don't think. But he did say that didn't happen.
Yeah.
That was his statement to them.
So the real afraid with you. Look, Bill Watts. How do I say this?
Cause I don't know the history of him like you do. I've heard his name before, but I don't know much about him.
Bill Watts to me comes off as as this guy that got a hell of a lot of balls, but he's just from that era. Okay, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. Where it's just like, you know what? You N-words are all right. It's like, wait, what? What did I say? Yeah,
what you mean? What did you say?
From the stories I get from Bill Watts, it's to the point where it's just like, I got balls to push Junkyard Dog as my top guy. Mm-hmm. I got the balls to put the belt on Ron Simmons. All right, now you know what I'm saying. Now these niggas ain't going nowhere. Excuse me, I had to use that language to get the content of what it is, and I'm just like, huh. And it's just like, because you got some, it's like Coco Beware said here, he was like, look, I give Bill Watts credit for doing a lot of things he did, and there are a lot of people in this world that are just that way. That's just like, you know what, you are, it was all right.
Basically, they'll just be like, oh, well, you know, they're rappers. Well, you know,
remember
those N-words they're just different.
Look,
like, wait a minute.
It's like when somebody says, you know what, you're one of the black people I could talk to. Thanks.
You're approachable.
Best example. Okay, I know you've seen it. Quadro, have you seen One Night in Miami?
I don't know. I don't think I have.
Good movie. And it's Regina King's directorial debut. Remember in the beginning, late sketch, when Jim Brown is driving to the guy's house, right?
Yes.
And this is Jim fucking Brown. He know what this is. One of the greatest running back that ever played the game football. You know, and this guy, he's talks about that.
On the porch freaking out. Well, he's on his porch. He's freaking out.
Yeah, because Jim Brown's, he's talking to him. He's giving him respect, offer him lemonade, but you can't come in
my
house.
Can't you know come in my house. I'll give you some lemonade on this porch.
Yeah, on this porch, but you can't come in this house. Okay. You can't be touching all. You can't be coming in the house.
No Negroes cross this threshold.
That's what I get from Bill Watts. That's exactly what I get from Bill Watts. And it's just like, from all the stories I hear, I'm just like, because for every racist story, there's a counter story of something he has done for black folks. But I'm just like, I'm getting the vibe, because I don't know fully myself neither. Like I said, because I was on when he was on the round table discussion with it was Tay Long, because this is back when he used to do the Legends of Wrestling round table,
like table for three type of deal.
I used to let him show. Carter, do you remember that on WWE 24 before the network?
Oh God!
Look, you reaching very far back that I do remember.
Yeah.
So stop it.
they had a Legends of Wrestling talk show. And they had one on the soul of wrestling. That's what it was called.
Oh, yes.
So it had Tay Long, it had Tony Atlas, it had Dusty Rhodes.
Dusty, this is your fault.
It's
why was? Never mind. You gotta have your own heart. Never mind.
Jim Ross, Bill Watts, and Michael P.S. Hayes. So
okay.
So
no. Let me stop. Let me stop you here.
He said no.
The soul of wrestling, because we know what we know what you're implying.
Yeah, I trust me. I know.
So how we outnumber 60-40 here?
Exactly.
I'm confused.
We said the soul, not the heart and the body. Now.
So that was the last time I seen Bill Watts talk about this kind of stuff that's why I brought it up.
I mean, I get it.
I get it.
I'm still trying to process. I was waiting for more of the blacks.
I agree with you.
Okay.
I would say, I know they wasn't gonna bring Rocky Johnson there because him and Tony Atlas don't get along.
But I say, was Tony Atlas getting his face walked on? What's up?
I said Tony Atlas was there. I said Tay Long, Tony Atlas, Dusty Rhodes.
Okay, yes, you did say that. Okay,
yeah.
And then yes, they don't get along. You're right.
Yes.
Nobody else. Ron Simmons wasn't available. Okay. I
don't know. This was back in like.
Well, you know, when you put too much pepper in the soup, the flavor changes. You know what I'm saying?
You said 20-something. That means that Ron Simmons was not actively wrestling. So, anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
go ahead. I'm stuck. I'm getting stuck on this.
I get it. I'm saying, but that's where
that's the last time you saw him.
That's I talk about this topic.
Got it.
So that's what I was saying. So that's the vibe from that guy from One Night in Miami.
That is a perfect example.
That's the vibe.
You're correct. You're correct.
That's how he goes.
And it's like we don't know this man personally, but you can only go by his own words and stuff, but other people's experiences with him. So basically, to sum it up, because I wasn't trying to, I be remembering stuff out of order, but I wasn't trying to drag this out. He was in Mid-South. Bill Watts was upset. Yeah. He left. So apparently, according to Teddy Long, that is the reason why he decided to leave, because he was kind of torn over leaving. And then he gets to WWE, and I guess you would say gets kind of a wake-up call. Where it's like here, instead of how in Mid-South things were built around you, you are the guy, you're a gimmick here.
But he was still
big.
Because it was like, how do I explain this? It was Hogan and whatever. Hogan had like a little group of people like, okay, this group here, brother, is wrestling, okay? And that had like Piper and Iron Sheik and Junkyard Dog and Macho Man and Brutus Beefcake. It was all in that circle. Because whoever was in the Rocky of Wrestling cartoon that they had, that was that little circle that they had.
I'm sorry. Full circle moment. Jabroni. Who does Jabroni belong to?
Iron Sheik.
Who took Jabroni?
Oh, Dwayne, which he already acknowledged that.
No, it's...
Oh, yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying now. Yeah, I put it there.
I'm sorry.
I smell what you're cooking.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
I hate you so much.
Yeah, and then... But then he started developing a serious drug problem.
Woo, listen. And the way they was talking about it, I said, oh, he was one of them aunties and uncles who fell victim in the mid-'80s.
Yes. It was kind of like he was doing crack.
But wait, but they did say, before crack even came onto the scene,
yeah,
he was kind of wild. He was starting to wild out a bit before then. He was just freebasing in limos and shit.
Yeah.
Taking folks through the hood to get drugs
that little drop
before the shows. I said, "What? Come on, David Ruffin, what are you doing? It's a Lincoln outside. It's the pink slip." No,
no, you didn't.
They said, who was that in the car with him? It was Tony Atlas, right?
Yeah.
They said he had to get him to a show, and they picked him up, and he said, "Well, I need you to go over."
Are you not gonna mention him and Tony Atlas in the hotel room? You're not gonna do it?
We'll get to it. Okay. He gonna say, he was like, "I need you to run me up to Strawberry Mansion real fast. Cop me some crack." Like, he was really wilding. And he was doing it just out in the open, basically. Yeah. So he was just going on like, at this point, I believe he was not with his wife anymore at this point. And his daughter was living with his sister, I believe. Because the only family representation they had for him in here was his nephew, which is unfortunate. And he explained later in the episode that his mom has a hard time talking about Junkyard Dog.
Yeah.
Because they were close. So she's real sensitive about the subject. And we'll get to his daughter later. So he's out on the road wilding, right? So Tony Atlas tells this story about is this the one where he was in the hotel room and the man came?
I'm talking about the one in the hotel room and then that free pussy was going around, but Tony Atlas wasn't none of that pussy. He wasn't that feet.
He would. So no, I'm not telling that story. I'm not telling that story. If you don't know, if anybody listening to this podcast don't know, Tony Atlas has a foot fetish. Capital F. Fetish. Okay? He will pay women to walk on him in high heels on his face.
Good night, everybody.
So
wait, real quick. I'm just shocked. Quanto, why are you so shocked? We met Tony Atlas face to face. Remember, he was the one that said that you was part of the Klan.
I know.
I'm sorry. What?
Yeah, that happened. Like my greatest wrestling stories is that and Sandman talking about where in Philly in my neighborhood he used to go get crack.
He used to go get crack.
This is kind of what it's
crack. It had a hold on him.
Meanwhile, I want to go talk to the regular people like Kevin Nash and Scott Hall.
I just why was he part? Why are you part of the Klan? I need to know now. We brought it up. It has to be discussed.
He was just talking.
That's what he was doing.
And this is why never. If there's an icon and he there, I'm not going over there.
Swole ass shit with a sleeveless button-up shirt on. Never seen him a day in my life.
If that man say something to me about walking on his face, I'm leaving. Where did it go? Oh, she left. She left the building.
He gonna like, hey, Missy, what size shoe you wear?
He said Junkyard was getting all the pussy, but me,
I just wanted the feet.
He just wanted me to walk on him.
That's wild.
Oh God.
Yo, I can't.
That's a wild life. Okay, so basically, he was getting caught up in the drug problem.
Yeah.
He was still
caught up. It was like drug problem, Junkyard dog. That's what I was saying.
He was still wrestling it at first, but then it really took hold.
Yeah.
Like he was blowing through money crazy. He was high.
Because he was bringing in over 150,000 at that time.
They was talking about the money he was making was crazy, even for by today's standard.
Yeah,
I can't imagine what that translated to back in the 80s.
Jeez. Yeah,
like to have that much money at your disposal to just buy drugs is detrimental. Okay, that's just dangerous. So it eventually overtook him, and then he got fired because he stopped showing up. Like he just wasn't coming to shows because he
got bigger. They call him junk food dog.
Oh Jesus! But then it's like you get bigger, and then he got super small because he was like strung out on the stuff. It was really really sad.
It was. Remember did I show the episode of Tuesday Night Titans when because that was the old wrestling talk show, like the late night talk show they used to have. Mm-hmm. That was like what's his name? The most popular late night talk show.
Oh, the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
People? Okay. Yeah.
And remember when he was showing Vince McMahon chitlins?
No, you did not show me this shit. Oh no! Because I would remember this.
If it's like, what do we call these chitlins?
just so y'all understand.
As a culture, we have to stop doing this. Stop spreading this.
We're not slaves no more.
Like,
just want to let you.
We got problems.
No.
Go ahead.
I did the conversion of what 150,000 in 1980 is today. That's $553,629.25.
Oh my!
Oh crap! Sylvester. Don't move the back away.
That's not even crack no more. That's a divot.
On crack. Oh my God.
You can't buy that much and call it crack no more. It gotta be a canyon.
Oh my God.
That ain't sugar no more at all.
I'm sorry. This is not funny. Addiction is not funny.
At all.
It's just, I was not expecting you to scream.
I was like, that's a lot of fucking fun.
I'm fucking hot. I need the fan.
Oh, God.
I can't imagine.
I can't imagine either. I mean, I could. But the thing, it's not to say that he blew every single dime he ever had on it. But I can't imagine spending $100,000 of today's money on it. But so basically, what happened was it was a downward spiral from there.
Yeah. He
started wrestling like small venues. I think Impact of today, and he would just show up long enough, appear in the ring to get his money, and be out before the. I think it was Jim Duggan who was saying how he.
Jim Duggan showed up a lot this season.
He has.
Ayo.
He was talking about how he would come in and he was like, I wanted to talk to him and check on him, and he was gone. Was it Jim Duggan or was it Jake the Snake?
Jake the Snake.
It was Jake the Snake.
I've been there. Yeah,
it was Jake the Snake. Because Jake the Snake was also talking about how he at the time was into some shit, and even Jake the Snake was like, I was on some shit, but Sylvester was on that shit. Like I was like, damn, that's drugs.
Volumes.
And you gotta make. I said, oh crack.
No, because that's the way he said it. He was like, we was all dabbling.
Yeah.
But Sylvester was gone. Like he was to the moon. Okay, he's the one who was talking about how he was just doing it out in the open. He would like do it and then be like, "You want some?" Like, whoa,
that spoon still hot.
He's giving Bobby Womack vibes. Like, you ever did crack cocaine? No, Bobby. Why would you ask us this question? So basically, it all starts to spiral down, and they're telling the story. This is toward the end of the episode.
His nephew's on the episode too.
Yes, his nephew is telling the story of how he is trying to get to his daughter's graduation, and he's still on the drugs. Yeah. But his body at this point is starting to like break down. Yeah. So he doesn't make it there on time, and he's upset. But they do, like, they all hang out, have some family time, celebrate her graduation. But
she's not there though. She left.
What are you talking about?
According to, now I don't know what they were saying on the end of the Dark Side of the Ring, but according to some reports I was reading, that he missed her graduation, but she wasn't there. She had left to go celebrate with friends, I believe it was, and he was there with his other family members that were celebrating.
Yeah, they didn't get into that part. Yeah. All that he said was he missed the actual graduation, and then he was hanging out with his family. And he was saying that he was going to drive back. He had to get back home for something. And he was saying he was going to drive back through the night, which probably wasn't a good idea. And
then his nephew throw up in the car.
Yes. He opened the door and he was like, "What's this?" And he was like, "Puke." He's like, "I had a long night last night. I drove all the way here." So basically, they implied that he was on drugs. And he started coming down in the morning time and basically crashed. And then he like passed out and had this horrible car accident. And that's how he died. And it was really unfortunate because his nephew did say that he really wanted people to remember his legacy of all that he did for wrestling. Yeah. Instead of it being overtaken by the fact that he was a drug addict in the end of his life. Mm-hmm. Which is unfortunate because that's a really big hump to overcome when the whole end of your career and end of your life is you being on drugs and it affecting your professional and personal relationships. Yeah. So then he passed, and I don't remember the exact time period, but his daughter also passed because they put him in the Hall of Fame. His daughter was there to accept him going into the Hall of Fame, and she acknowledged his sister. She did. Even there, she looked kind of sad, like you know. But after that happened, she passed, and I think that he said that she had. I can't remember what exactly happened. I believe like. Did she have a pulmonary embolism? Something bad happened. Something bad. Like she died instantly. There was nothing they could do for her.
Yeah, she talked on the phone and dropped dead.
Yes, yeah. Like she was only 31, so they buried the two of them together, which is unfortunate. So that's kind of the end of the story. It really is nobody left to tell his story except like his nephew, because like you said, his mom has a hard time talking about it. So it's like his legacy is unfortunately gone. I mean we can see all that he did for wrestling and the tapes and all that jazz, but the living story to be able to tell his story is fading fast. So I mean, I think it was cool they did a Dark Side on him, even though the whole point of Dark Side is that some fucked up shit happened.
It's called Dark Side of the Ring.
But you know, it is his story is unfortunate, because he was a pioneer, for black wrestlers, and for all that could be done. But to go out like that.
It is sad.
That's sad. It was kind of sad. The end was like, this is rough. Like, it don't get no better. Like, I was hoping, I was like, we get a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel or something, but no, unfortunately, he went out like that.
Yeah, sometimes stories don't always end the way you want them to end.
No, but it was unfortunate.